The Daily Mail has called out the neo-Nazi problem in Restore Britain. The paper features Restore on two front pages, the Mail on Sunday on the 14th of June and the following day, and it says, Restore activists at white supremacy summit and Restore is the new home for neo-Nazis. The paper claims supporters canvassing for Restore in Makerfield had attended an event that hosted calls for a white-only Europe. Not surprising at all. Restore is the home of literal Nazis. Among Lowe's loudest cheerleaders is Steve Laws, a former migrant hunter who cemented his reputation as Britain's biggest racist last year. The influencer is notorious for his relentless pursuit of total remigration, the ethnic cleansing of anyone with non-white heritage from Britain. The anti-Semite has also denied the Holocaust, claiming he will be straight behind the Nazi regime in the 1930s. Instead of Hitler, he's very much a misunderstood politician. I'd say a lot of the stuff that he advocated for in the German people will be wonders for our people right now. This was his response in the race riots in 2024. Moss got targeted, lol, who cares? Misdirected in this instance, maybe? Justifies. Yes, fuck him. Give him hell, lads. Now, in the article, it also states this. Among those campaigning for Restore in the constituency on Saturday was Callum Barker, a hardened neo-Nazi who was at the Extremist Remigration Summit in Portugal 2 weeks ago. Barker has posted images that reference 1488, shorthand for a 14-word white nationalist slogan, and 88, which stands for Hail Hitler, H being the 8th letter of the alphabet. The Daily Mail also documented another party member. Restore party member James Munro, on the left, defended this picture on the grounds it was a different time, yet he posed for it around 10 years ago. So, has the newspaper that famously backed the Nazis in the 1930s suddenly grown a conscience? Of course not. The Daily Mail said, anyone who really cares about Britain won't vote Restore. Instead, they actually asked voters to back reform. I doubt the Daily Mail really cares about the politics of Restore. They just don't want the vote to be split on the right. Lewis, you spoke about this story before. What do you make of it all?
So, yes, a Daily Mail journalist reached out to me because she became aware that I knew some of these characters, some of them a bit more intimately than others. A lot of these people have come up on TikTok, and they've been on this platform for quite a while now. These characters are interesting because they've got the aspect of the anti-Semitism definitely down when it comes to the white supremacy side, and they pretty much reject anybody who's got any association with anything Jewish. So what a lot of the public don't understand, our audience will, because they're more into politics than we do, is that people just think of like right-wing and like the anti-immigration law and just kind of like be like, oh, reform voters, and yeah, Rupert Lowe's upcoming. But there is a huge section of the online right, and I think it is the majority of the anti-immigration lot on Twitter who are now way further right than Tommy Robinson. They think he's, captured by Jews, Israel, whatever it might be. Like, yeah, he's got funding that's connected to them. He's got funding connected to Russia and the UAE, allegedly. But they are pretty much full-blown ethno-nationalists. They don't espouse fascism, so if you want to full-on call them actual neo-Nazis, I don't know, but definitely white supremacists, definitely ethno-nationalists, and a lot of them hang around on TikTok. One of the guys featured in the article, I'm not going to say his name because he loves being featured in things. He came on TikTok live. I was on a panel the day after that Sunday Mail article came out, which he was featured in, and yeah, he was upset. And I spoke to him literally for 2 minutes, and I was like, what do you expect in these situations when you've been online for so much and they're going to, find these things? The Daily Mail actually did a crap article. I didn't actually like the article that they put out because it was actually a bit crappy. The reason that I'm saying that is because if they really wanted to go deep on somebody and some of these characters, they could find a whole lot more than what they featured. And the reason that I'm saying that is because it feels like they've almost like rushed to get this article out, which goes to the point of they're attacking Restore, not because they've seemingly grown a conscience, but because they won't be able to manage the political influence that they have and the right-wing media have in this country, right? If we have a a persistent three-way split between Tories to Reform to Restore, that's completely and utterly unmanageable. So one part of the competition needs to be eliminated, because it's actually, even though you can see in the 2024 election how Farage essentially did potentially, if not almost completely handed Starmer his victory, depending on how you want to tear apart the polls and reanalyze what would have happened if Reform didn't actually run in the way that they did. They can't manage that with a three-way split. So they need to get rid of part of the competition. And it's also, again, worth noting that Lord Rothermere's wife did donate £50,000 to the Reform Party. And people who hang around within those circles, from my investigation of Lord Rothermere's wife and the kind of like socialite circles that they operate in, seem to be somewhat interconnected to other Reform donors from my little investigations that I've been doing. And it is very interesting because there's been so many scandals related to Reform. And yes, the Mail has reported on some of them, but they haven't reported on that many. And can anybody really think of a time outside of this current cycle where one of the stories about Reform has come about where it's a neo-Nazi councillor, somebody who praised Hitler, or somebody who did something completely and utterly horrific, and then it's not on the front page of the Mail? Why are they choosing to do this now? I can't see any other motivation for this other than them trying to essentially get rid of Restore or hurt them and damage them to such a point where they can go back to making Farage and Kemi Badenoch and Reform and Conservatives fight amongst each other, therefore maybe moving the Conservatives further to the right. And going back to that system, which I think they were kind of liking in a way. This threat from Restore does face something massive because they can't control Rupert, they can't control Twitter. They have some influence over it in terms of the story they put out, and that ends up on places like X. But it is a massive, massive slap to their power if Restore continues to rise in its success, because it means the right wing will never get back in power in the next generation.
Yeah, you are completely right. If they cared about this story, they would have dug deep. But of course, they won't. They want a surface level story, put out before the by-election, because they just want Reform to win. I mean, essentially, if you want to grift, Reform Party is for you. It's the corporate party. I mean, you could argue Restore are less of a grift because they are hardcore extremists. And there are a lot of multimillionaires and billionaires who probably don't even like a lot of Reform rhetoric, and don't have a problem with immigration, but they know, like, Reform are the coup party. Now, I know that all political parties take corporate donations, of course. You know, the Labour Party does. And of course, sometimes, well, a lot of time, policies is geared towards big business over the working class because our system is broken. But like, Reform is a different beast. Like, they genuinely, I believe, want to coup this country and carve it up piece by piece and give it to corporations. Like, at least the Tories and Labour will keep the system as it is. Labour will try and sprinkle some stuff for the working class, but not enough, but also work for the corporate class. That thing's true. But I would say Reform want to carve up our system, carve up this country, and give it to the corporations. Restore, they may not even want that. They are just so extreme that it's probably harder to grift. But you're absolutely right that this is all about getting Reform to win.